Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Now, big question for you. Did you get a good night's sleep? Think about that for a second. How you feeling today? Me personally, it was okay. Went to bed a little later than I should have. But after speaking with this gentleman, I really wonder if I'm sleeping well. And honestly, if I have a form of sleep apnea, I often wonder about that. Learned a lot last time we got together. And he is the provider of the number one alternative to CPAP therapy for people who suffer from obstructive sleep apnea. He does a great job in Kansas City, in that area, and he's back with us. Dr. Randal Silver joins us on the program. Welcome back. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. I'm learning a lot, and I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to be transparent here. In the last couple of months, since we're talking about sleep apnea, it's not about me, but maybe this is impactful to share. I've noticed, this is going to sound weird, but one side of my tongue feels like it's getting bitten when I wake up. It's just like a little sore, like, oh, what's that? Where? And it goes away, an hour later. It's not maybe 2 hours later. It's not troublesome, but it's like, why is that like that? So after our last conversation, now I'm thinking to myself, what's actually going on while I'm sleeping? Could that be a sign potentially of an obstruction situation?
Maybe loosely, that wouldn't be sort of like the top thing that I'm looking for. It kind of makes me think of, a lot of people that suffer from sleep apnea will have nocturnal bruxism, or they're going to grind or clench their teeth at night. And sometimes during that, depending on how bad you grind or clench, right, the tongue can be a little bit of collateral damage. So it could be, in your specific case, it could be related to maybe you're doing some teeth grinding. Now, sometimes that's just sort of a stress reliever and doesn't necessarily mean that you have sleep apnea, but it's definitely associated with that. Other times, too, people that are suffering from sleep apnea, a lot of times, the tongue muscle will sort of like start to push forward and it will sort of press against the teeth, and occasionally you can get some soreness from that related to sleep apnea. So it's possible.
And it only just started recently. Of course, now I'm talking to you, so
right.
One would know if it was happening like a year ago. I would know it. I will share that I have a deviated septum and can't breathe really well on one side. It's been that way since I was 22. Had an accident.
Did you get
if
it
you
fixed?
have, I'm sorry.
Did you get it fixed?
No.
Or you still have the deviated septum?
Yep.
Yeah. And so that can also be a reason for sleep related issues as well. So I always recommend to everybody, if they've got any sort of nasal or sinus or deviated septum type issues, definitely see an ENT, because it certainly could. While it may not necessarily lead someone to have sleep apnea, it could cause some other sleep related issues.
Yeah, I should put on my big boy pants and get that fixed.
There you go. Put it on the agenda.
Yeah, along with everything else.
Right.
Last time we got a little bit deeper into what takes place when you work with somebody for this type of, I guess we call it therapy.
Yeah.
The appliance itself, we never got there. I'd love to
Sure.
take a look at that, understand a little bit more about what goes in somebody's mouth to alleviate the condition and how it all works.
Sure. So on sort of a simplistic level, it's basically like wearing a set of dental retainers. So for people that have had braces and worn retainers before, it would be something that they would at least be somewhat familiar with. A little bit more of a loose connection. Some people will have experience wearing like a sports guard if they're playing football or any sort of contact sport like that. So it's very similar to something like that. I've got several devices here. I think I can even hold one up to the camera here.
Sure.
Um, yeah, you can see here, we've got, how well I'm holding this up to the camera, but you get a custom precision made retainer for the one for the top teeth and one for the bottom teeth. And when we design the device, and I'm just going to exaggerate for your office, or not for your office, for the camera here. When we design the device, we design it and we specifically make it, and I'm just going to exaggerate just so people can see, but that lower jaw is going to be stabilized in a forward position. Um, and it's our job to find out, exactly where a patient's going to get that maximum therapeutic benefit. It's kind of very similar to the concept people learn in CPR, that sort of chin lift sort of thrust that people are taught to do, by moving everything sort of forward. It just creates a lot more space for the airway and keeps the tongue and uvula and soft palate from all collapsing into that.
Can you hold that up again, Randall?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. So obviously we see the clear teeth, we see the
Yeah.
blue appliance,
Yeah.
and a lot simpler than I thought. The stuff on the
Yeah.
side, what's going on there with the it looks like
Yeah.
a
So,
maroon
like
colored.
little wings. Yeah. So there are dozens and dozens of different type of devices, and they're all designed in a way so that we can position the mandible in that forward position. So this particular device uses these little wings on the side so that we can get the lower jaw into that correct position. And it might be hard to see, but there's like a little um, screw on the side there where we can
Yes.
adjust the position of those wings. And that allows us to titrate or to find that correct position, right? So, and everybody's going to be a little bit different. So one person might be a millimeter forward, another person might be 2.5 millimeters forward, or whatever that number is. And so, typically, we tell patients, the first 3 months is sort of the active phase of your treatment, where we're going to be locating that specific position for you. Um, and also, being that they're adjustable, we typically will start patients relatively conservatively
Okay.
because it's so important that these devices are comfortable. So, if I put a patient in a device and if I think their ideal position is, let's say, 6 or 7 millimeters forward, I don't want to start them there. I want to give their jaw and muscles and joints sort of time to ease into that. So over that first 3 months, we're going to slowly keep sort of increasing that forward position.
So looking at that, being very honest here, the blue part looks pretty simple. The
Yeah,
maroon colored portion, question, is it somewhat uncomfortable? Gotta ask that question.
yeah, no, absolutely. It definitely that particular device does look a little bit intimidating, and like, oh my gosh,
It does. Yeah.
um, more often than not, when we first are delivering the appliance to a patient, we typically get, wow, that's a lot more comfortable than I was expecting. And then typically within the first week or maybe two, patients it sort of, I don't want to say disappears, but it just becomes very comfortable, very normal. There's other devices that look different, but they again they all work on the same principle. So if we look at this one here, you can see, it doesn't have those wings. Instead, it has a little
Okay.
metal arm, and that's what we use to again get that forward.
Gotcha. Is it a situation where, all right, the first night, two, three, it might be a little uncomfortable until you get used to it. Once you get used to it, it's all good. And that's my first question. Follow up is, how long must you wear it? Or is this one of those things where if you have sleep apnea, there's something misaligned, you're going to be wearing it for a while, if not indefinitely?
Yeah, so sleep apnea is a lifetime condition. It
Okay.
will typically not go away. There are some cases where it's strictly weight related. So on occasion, there There are some people where it's just directly related to an obesity issue. And if the person can lose the weight, sometimes you can retest, and lo and behold, the sleep apnea has dissipated or not dissipated, but been resolved. Um, uh, Even if it hasn't resolved, a lot of times you can improve its level of severity, right? So someone with severe might become moderate, or someone with moderate might be mild. But for the majority of people, if you have sleep apnea, it's not going. So it is something that you need to treat for a lifetime. So,
How
yep.
do you know when it's time to change the appliance?
Uh, you mean like when does somebody get a new one,
Yeah.
so to speak? Yeah. So typically we start at least evaluating that at the 5 year mark. We're just looking for signs of just like wear and tear, or maybe little cracks that are forming from patients that are grinding or clenching, things like that. But I mean, they last quite a long
Okay. Does it change? So, let's say you have the blue appliance. We'll just refer to it that way.
time. Sure. Yeah.
And then, a period of time goes by and you evaluate the patient and change it up. Does that often happen?
Not really. So there's not a huge difference in sort of the therapeutic value of the different devices. So I'm going to be able to get the same result no matter which style we choose. Sometimes we'll have a patient that will want to try a different device to see if they like it better, if it feels different. Maybe instead of having the wings on the side, I've got a device where it, those positions are actually on the biting surface. Or I have devices that are connected, like we saw with the metal arm, versus the ones that aren't. So there's a variety of different ones. Typically, it's more for sort of comfort than, than therapy.
What about hygiene with these devices? How do you clean them? How often do you clean them? Are they best description like dentures when you take them out? What do you do?
Yeah, so depending on the device, so different devices will have a slightly different protocol depending on the material of the device. But simply speaking, you take it out in the morning, rinse it with some cold water. You can use a little like detergent, like Dawn, like one of those ones that don't have a lot of abrasives or anything in it. So a little drop of soap, rinse it off, put it in your case, and you're done.
Silly question, brings back a memory. My grandmother, dentures, cup, drops a tablet in, fizz, clean. Um, would you do something like that? Just to keep it easier way to maintain it every day, or no?
Depending on the particular device. So again, some of the materials they do recommend like a weekly sort of clean like that, and some of them don't. Yeah,
Wow, interesting.
yeah,
We touched upon CPAP last time
yeah,
we got together.
yeah.
Is this in some instances a replacement for CPAP? In other words, if somebody says, I don't want to do this thing, I'd rather wear a mask. I don't know how many would say that, but maybe somebody would feel better than putting something in their mouth. Maybe they have a phobia, whatever it might
Sure,
be. Um,
sure.
would CPAP be something to get the job done? Or we're talking, yeah, in this situation, in terms of condition of the patient, apples to oranges.
No, that's a great question. So no, absolutely. CPAP can always be an alternative to the oral appliance.
Okay.
Um, so if the patient can tolerate the CPAP, and that's sort of the big negative with CPAP therapy. CPAP's been around since I believe the early '80s, and it works phenomenally well. Um, and the only main issue that really CPAP has is compliance. So many people cannot tolerate having that mask on their face,
Sure.
having the air blowing down into their lungs all night long. I've heard a whole laundry list of reasons of why people have failed to be able to be compliant. My favorite one that I got over the years, I had a patient come in and he tosses and turns a lot at night. And he said he woke up one night in the middle of the night and the cord from the CPAP machine was wrapped several times around his neck. And he says, I swear to God, I think my CPAP machine was trying to kill me. I'm not wearing it ever again.
No words. I never even thought. I never even thought of something like that
Yeah,
happening.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Uh, hmm.
So typically what we find is more sort of the reverse of kind of what you just said. More often than not, it's someone coming to see me, doc. I've tried to CPAP, I can't do it. And keep it on for maybe an hour, or I wake up every morning and the thing's on the floor and it looks like I was barely using it. What else can we do, right? And then we sort of talk about the dental appliance. We talk about some surgical options, and typically the majority of people want to try the dental device before they jump into something basic like surgery.
So you're a dentist
Correct.
and offering this service. We talked basically about your journey last time, but I want to go back and put the microscope if we didn't dig into it, because I'm real curious.
Sure.
What was that aha moment for you where you said, along with dentistry, this is what I want to do? I want to also help people with sleep apnea. What was the moment that it came clear for you?
Um, Really, it was, like I kind of said before, we didn't get much background in dental school. By much, I mean none. About 10 years into my career, I just happened to take a course on it because I was in a big conference and I'm like, this sounds interesting. Um, and it really was very interesting. And then I'm like, let me see if I can help somebody. And really, it was the first case that I did. Um, Middle-aged, single mom, just I don't want to say miserable. That sounds a little too harsh, but really suffering. I mean, just
Yeah.
exhausted, just struggling to keep up with the hectic lifestyle. We get her into a device, and literally the next day she was like, "Oh my God, I haven't felt this good," and she couldn't remember. It was just so life changing for her that at that moment I'm like, wow, look at this impact
Wow.
I can have on somebody's life. And the more I got into it, the more education I got. Now I'm a diplomat, and um, you know, I I know the impact, and not just on sort of those acute symptoms, right? So people that are suffering from that in the daytime fatigue and the morning headaches and the irritability and all that other stuff. Um, but there's a lot of other things that patients don't experience right away. Like it's hard to quantify lowering their risk for a heart attack or lowering that risk for a stroke. Um, but that's huge. I just think how many patients have now avoided a catastrophe like that because they're treating their sleep. So
I got you
it's
on that. Yeah.
yeah,
And I have to tell you, I got chills. The hair stood up on my arm when you told that story about that woman because I
yeah,
feel it for her. And also, I know a lot of people that struggle with sleep. Could be apnea. I don't know what it is. Shared with you last time, they're popping gummies and taking,
yeah,
this and taking that.
yeah,
Short term, okay, whatever. But long term, that's not the answer. You're not getting
yeah,
to the root of the cause. And I'm going to go deeper here in saying that my dad passed from a sudden heart attack at a younger age, and it's on my radar. I'm taking steps in my health, just because of that. Now, however, he didn't sleep a lot. I know it for a fact.
yeah,
He was a boater. He loved to, I'll take the overnight hours, so I have the day free. I can be on my boat, and would wonky schedules all the time.
yeah,
So my gut tells me that, to your point, exactly, that had a lot to do with it. Maybe he wasn't a great sleeper, but part of it by choice, he wasn't sleeping a lot,
yeah,
and burning the candle on both ends. And he was athletic, healthy, would get as a kid would get on my case. Why are you putting salt on that? No, 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 don't put salt on that, and dropped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, the sleep thing, says a lot. And even that being said, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning for decades doing morning radio. And about
Yeah.
five years ago, I changed that because
Yeah.
I saw after all of this, the importance of sleep. It's next to food. It's life.
Yeah.
It's no.
It's such a cornerstone of health.
Yeah,
I mean, you could pretty much Google any medical condition and like see like what is the link to sleep or sleep apnea, and you'll get at least a dozen or more articles talking about that connection.
for
So,
sure.
if you're not sleeping well, bad things happen. I mean, they use sleep deprivation as torture. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it really has an impact on your overall health.
And everybody knows how they feel when they have a great night of sleep, the clarity, the energy, the exuberance. And when
Yeah.
you don't sleep well, you feel raggy and irritable and just life's not good. Life's not good. Make life better.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and for some people, they don't even realize how bad they're feeling because it's just sort of become normalized for them. They're just like, this is what it feels to be normal. And just as an example, I had a patient that we recently treated. He came to us from the Department of Transportation, and they do screenings on all their drivers. And if they seem to be at risk, they make them get a test. And so this guy comes in and he just wasn't happy about it. He's like, I feel fine. I don't really believe in any of this stuff. And I'm like, I get that. I said, and I did my best to do my patient education and all that. But the bottom line is, I'm like, look, if you want to keep driving, we gotta show that you're in treatment. So he agreed. We made him the device. After his first weekend, he sent us just a really nice thank you. He was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "I had no idea how good I would feel getting a full night's sleep." He's like, "I can't remember ever sleeping through the night." Just going on and on. So like
Mm.
here he was, not knowing that his normal isn't normal. Like you can actually feel good if you get the sleep that you need.
And it seems so simple. Go to sleep, but it's not
Yeah.
for some of
No.
us. Thank you for
Right.
what you do, Randal. How does somebody connect with you? I know that you're Kansas City area.
Correct.
Unfortunately, this can't be done virtually. You have to be fitted. But
Right.
how do we find you?
So probably the easiest way is just to go to my website, www.sleepmattersllc.com. We've got a ton of great information on there. I've got a sleep blog on there. And then you can also always call or shoot us a text, 816-610-9303. So we're always happy to help. So whether you're in the Kansas City area or not, if you've got a question about your sleep, let us know. And even if you're not in my area, I am in a network of like-minded dental sleep medicine specialists, and there's a good chance I could find a great colleague or a good office for you.
Thank you for caring. I really mean
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It,
yeah, my pleasure.
it shows that you change lives and you are, and much appreciated. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.